Hello, all my favorite shadow people. I'm coming to you this week with the topic of why practice shadow work. I think it's a really interesting topic because obviously there's lots of ways to work on improving ourselves and finding parts of ourselves that need work. Some people use therapy or maybe reading books on topics of mental health. But the nice thing about shadow work is it kind of digs into an important area of ourselves that maybe we've never considered before. So when we're looking at shadow work, I think a really interesting topic to consider, first of all, is the areas of knowledge. So this is things that we know, and that divides into 4 separate areas. So some of these may seem very obvious to you, but I explain it just to make the final bit more understandable. So first of all, you have the things that you know you know. This is going to be knowledge that you've taken in your life. Maybe when you were in school, you studied a specific topic, so you know you have information on this. Usually it's things that you remember learning that you've taken in and you can recall and use to your own benefit later in life. So that's the category of things you know you know. And another easy category to figure out is things you know you don't know. So this is going to be just general knowledge you've never achieved yet. So if you're from one country and you speak one language, you might know in another country they speak another language and you've never acquired that. So that's just easy knowledge to be aware you don't have yet. Maybe there's a topic you want to study. Say you went to school for biology, but because you went to school for biology, you know that you probably aren't able to do something like engineering because you don't have a background in that. And it's not to say these aren't topics you could study, it's just to say at the moment you don't have that knowledge in your head. And then we move into a weirder one, which is things you don't know you know. This is more of your instinctual knowledge. So it'd be things like if someone throws a ball at your head, you don't have to think about it to block it. You just kind of move your hand. And if you're walking, you don't need to think about balancing. You don't have to concentrate on breathing or making your heart beat. Your body just knows to do all these things on their own. And there is some knowledge that is almost instinctual in people that we would call like a talent or a skill, where they've never trained or learned anything about it. And yet suddenly they just seem to be able to do it. So those would be things you don't know you know. And then we get to the most important square. And that is things you don't know you don't know. And there's no way to really describe this square because you don't know it. But what's really interesting when we move into shadow work is we start to uncover or reveal these hidden parts of ourselves that we didn't know we weren't aware of. And when we do that, it creates a sort of revolution in our minds that ripples out and impacts all areas of our lives because this knowledge is really useful often, and there's a reason that we haven't been aware of it until this time. So how does shadow work actually help you find out this information of things you don't know you don't know? I often like to think of shadow work along with the concept of karma. Now, the challenging thing about the term karma is it's been co-opted quite a bit by society these days. It's kind of to refer to anyone who's had anything bad happen to them that we feel they deserve, which sounds a lot more to me like divine intervention or cosmic justice. It kind of has the idea that if you do something bad, someone bigger than you is watching over you and they're going to knock you down and make you pay for it. And that's the way we've kind of started to think of karma. But karma is not really cosmic justice. What karma is, in my definition, is the collection of beliefs and experiences, things that you've gone through in your life or that are instilled in you from childhood or even that are genetically part of you that impact how you interact with the world. So karma is kind of like a lens that you see the world through. And everything that is in existence experiences this karma, this interface that affects how things interact with the world. And it's really important that we become aware of this karma, because karma is part of our shadow, or shadow really is part of our karma, because the shadow part would be the darker parts of our karma. And obviously you can have positive karma as well, where it seems like good things happen to you. So just to take the idea a little further, the best way to explain it is essentially every human has karma, and karma is kind of like a big river. And we're all floating in this river of karma, and we've always been in it since we were born. So in a way, because we've always been so deep in this river, we don't even know that we're in it. It's like it's over our heads. We're just getting pulled along in different directions, and we don't really have a choice about which way we're going because we're so heavily pulled by that. And to relate back to the areas of knowledge or things that we know, this is the things we don't know that are pulling us along and overwhelming us and deciding our life course. So when you practice shadow work, you create what we call awareness. And when you first start to create that awareness, it's similar to having your head just come up above the water. So now you can start to see these things that are pulling you along and taking over your life, but you're still being pulled along by them. And as you practice awareness, meditation, grounding exercises, all these shadow work activities that we're introducing every week, we start to move towards the edge of the water. So it's like after you get your head above the water, now maybe you've learned to swim a little bit, so you have a little choice in your direction. And then maybe you meet the ground a little bit, so you're starting to walk out of the water. Now, the karma or the water is important because all living things experience it. So as long as you're still here, you're always going to have a karmic involvement in your life. But when you start doing shadow work, you're usually at the point where the water is pulling you and you don't even know you're in it. And the longer you practice, the closer you get to the shore. And the goal is to be at the point where it's essentially just, ankle deep water. You know it's there. It's still impacting you, but it's not pulling you along and making decisions for you the way that it would if you were in the middle of the river. So that's kind of why we practice shadow work, is to create that awareness, to create that independence or autonomy in our lives where we can choose which of our karma we react to. And obviously, you can still get a flood of water and a spring melt or a sudden change in weather, and it could pull you back in. But now you have the tools to walk back out when you need to. So that's kind of the idea and why I love shadow work. And I think it really makes an impact on people's lives to create that sense of awareness. So hopefully, if that makes sense to you, you'll start joining us every week, and we hope to see you then.